This is Kevin Ford. I want to talk to you about releasing long-held negative emotions in a process called going beyond forgiveness.
Hello, it's Kevin Ford here, and I'm in beautiful Mount Charleston National Recreation Area in the Toyabe National Forest here, northwest of Las Vegas a little bit, hiking on a beautiful day. It's going to get up to 100 degrees down in Las Vegas today, but shouldn't be much more than 75 or 80 up here. So I'm here with a friend and my dogs, and we're having a beautiful hike, and we stopped here because this is a beautiful spot with a great overlook all the way down the valley here. And then to our eventual goal behind me, it's called Mummy's Toe. And we've got a couple decisions to make around some snow and ice. We'll see if we make that or not. Anyways, I'm here. I wanted to talk to you about a process of letting go of old emotions that are no longer serving you. They've served you very well up till now, but it's time to let them go and move on. And these will be emotions around fear and anger and spite and things like that. Probably stemming from your childhood, probably from a parent or a sibling or a guardian of some type, and probably around a long pattern of behavior, the way that your relationship with that person played out and left you feeling one way or another and left you acting one way or another. And up until now, you've probably seen yourself as some sort of a victim of abuse or a victim of unfair behavior on their part. And that's a belief that you formed as a result of this event. That was your response to it. And it's time to put something else in place. You're no longer a victim, okay? You are a conscious actor in that relationship, and if we go through this process, you're going to find and you're going to take the new perspective that your chosen response and the skills that you gained or the attributes of your character and personality that resulted from that pattern of behavior are serving you incredibly well. There's a gift buried in there that maybe you've been blind to until now, but we're going to find it, and that's going to help you. That's going to help you move through this and change your perspective. So to enact this process, a first step is to choose a particular memory, one that stands out, probably has a powerful emotional charge that goes along with it. Choose one of those and put yourself back there. For me, it's I'm standing at the foot of the stairs in our basement in my father's childhood home, my father's home when I was a child, and we had just come back from a car vacation, and our dad had asked one of us in putting away, unloading the car, putting things away, had asked one of us, me or my brother or sister, to put away this Tupperware container of chicken. And whoever he asked left it out and it spoiled. And now he was yelling at us and threatening if he could remember which of us he asked to put this away, that there would be, spankings and threats of violence. And I'm scared, and I'm hoping he doesn't think it's me. I don't believe it was. I think it's unfair that he's yelling at us. Mostly I'm just scared, though. So that's where I'm at. That's the memory I'm choosing to use this process on. And so you take a moment, pause the video if you need to, and think of a powerful memory with this that you want to use this process on. You got it? All right. Step one is to take that person's perspective, take the other person's perspective, and understand what they were feeling and why they were doing what they were doing. And I want you to also use a couple assumptions, especially if it's a parent or guardian or sibling. Use these assumptions and choose to believe them in this moment, even if it conflicts with what you already believe. And these beliefs are: that person loves you, they care deeply about you, and they're doing the best they can in that moment with what they've got. So when I think of my dad there, I know that he loves me, and I know he's doing the best that he can in that moment, given his own beliefs and his own baggage and his own relationships with parts of his past. So if you start there with those assumptions, what might my dad be thinking as he's yelling at us and very, very angry about this incident? Well, I know he has a scarcity mindset that he grew up with, that he got from his childhood when his parents were very poor. They worked very hard, did their best, and just didn't have a ton of stuff. They built their own house. It burned down at one point, and they lived in a kind neighbor's living room until they could build a new house. And when I asked my grandfather, my dad's dad, what Thanksgiving was like when in his childhood, his response was, "Thanksgiving? It's like any other day." And I've heard plenty of stories of people from that generation. You have bologna sandwiches on Thanksgiving, or you have potatoes on Thanksgiving. So how that relates to this situation, my dad might be living through that belief system of food is scarce and we don't have enough of it, and now some just got wasted, so my dear kids might not have enough to eat, and that scares him, and that fear is too much, so it turns to anger, and he wants to fight this reality of, some ruined food, and so that comes out as anger. So who did this? Who put us in jeopardy? Who's at fault for this? So the source of his anger is really deep love and concern for our well-being. Now, in truth, I don't know if that's true or not. It might be true. I do know that he loves me. I do know that he cares deeply about me. So I'm going to choose to assume that that's what he was thinking. That's what he was feeling in that moment. It wasn't, I want to hit these kids. I want to make them afraid. That was not his goal. His goal was to protect us, and it came out the way it came out. Not the way I wanted to see it, but the way it did. So that's step one. Choose to take their perspective. Why don't you stop the video and go through that with the memory that you've chosen for a moment. Got it? All right. Next is even more challenging. Step two is we're going to take responsibility for our reaction. Now, a deep foundation of any personal development stance is that we're responsible for our actions. We're responsible for everything in our lives. We're responsible for everything that occurs around us, especially what we do once something external occurs. Sometimes it's hard to apply that to yourself as a child. You think, oh no, I was a victim when I was a kid. You shouldn't do that with kids, that kind of thing. Then go ahead and take that belief if it serves you. That's giving away your power, though, and it's removing responsibility, when in reality, I could have chosen any response when I was a kid. Fear and shrinking and going into protection mode led to a few other things that we're going to find out turned out to be a real gift. But this step is about saying, okay, I could have chosen other things. I could have chosen like my older brother did. My dad's anger didn't have the same effect on him. He chose maybe a stronger response, a more powerful response of getting angry and not folding and not going into protection. He chose to take that and allow power to rise in himself. I chose to react with fear, and at this moment in this process, I'm just going to take responsibility for that and say, okay, Dad, you chose to act this way. I now can see that it was rooted in love at one point, at its base, and my reaction was fear and folding and protection for myself. And that's my choice. That's not your responsibility that I did that. That's mine. You did your part in creating it, and I did my part in creating it, which is my responsibility. So I absolve you of any responsibility for that choice of mine. And once I do that, I take power and responsibility for my choice. I can forgive you. I've held anger and spite and thought things like, why would you do this to kids? Would you why would you act with such anger all the time and make me feel such fear? That phrase there, make me feel such fear. And what I'm doing right now is absolving you of that responsibility, forgiving you for any part you had in it, and taking responsibility. I allowed myself to react with fear. I chose to react with fear. And for whatever part you played in that, I absolve you of responsibility, and I forgive you completely. Why don't you take a moment and do that with the memory that you've chosen? And pay close attention. Become the observer of yourself here. And are you still spiteful? Are you forgiving out of anger? Out of anything other than love? Then keep working on it. Forgive until you're forgiving out of unconditional love. First for yourself, second for whoever the memory is about, and then until you've got nothing left but love and forgiveness. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about this. I'm going to get back on the trail, and I'll talk to you from further on up the mountain. If you feel so inspired, you can click the link below and schedule a session with me, a session in which I'll waive my fee, and we can talk more about this process, and we can dive deep into what it is that you need to forgive, move on from, and reclaim your power in. Look forward to talking with you.